A pleasant morning, everyone. Today, I am going to talk to you about these three kinds of fun poetry. Now, before we start discussing these three, allow me first to explain to you what is all about fun poetry. Now, fun poetry is a style of poetry in its own right, different from the many other types of more serious verse, and it is a style of poetry that is often called a genre. And these include number one, love poetry, cowboy poetry, jump rope rhyme poetry, and then the last one is the epic poetry, which is the very long poem or poetry, and so on. Alright, fun poetry is somewhat a very nice poetry ever because accordingly it is a style of poetry in its own right, meaning to say the writer writes for a certain purpose, which is to gain fun and or amusement on writings. Now, let's proceed to these three fun poetry which is assigned to me to discuss or to tackle about. These three are number one, riddle, number two, limericks, and then the number three, which is the haiku. Now, what is riddle all about? Now, riddle is a question or statement intentionally phrased so as to require or acquire ingenuity in ascertaining its answer or meaning, typically presented as a game. Meaning to say a certain game which requires an answer. Alright, a riddle is a poem, but it's also a game. Why? Because you have to think for an appropriate or a concrete question which requires also a concrete answer, because while perceiving the question or the riddle, you have to think critically or wisely so as to obtain the concrete answer of that a certain question. So, but that is a poem. So that is a riddle. Let's take for this example. Number one, three eyes have I, all in a row. When the red one opens, all freeze. So, guess what? What will be the answer? Yes, the answer is a traffic light. Okay, let's proceed to next. Number two. Example. What animal walks on all fours in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening? The answer is a man, since he crawls as a child, then walks and uses a cane when he gets older. So that is, or those are all riddle. Now let's proceed to limerick or limericks. Now, what is limerick all about? It is a humorous or frequently bawdy verse of 3 long and 2 short lines rhyming a, b, b, or a, b, popularized by Edward Lear. Now, it is a short 5-line poem with just one stanza, meaning to say a limerick is just a short poem which consists one stanza and 5 lines in every in the certain stanza. Now, a single stanza consists of exactly 5 lines. Employ one rhyme on the first, second, and fifth lines. Let's take for this example. It is from the Book of Nonsense, contained Limericks in 1846. For example, there was a young lady of Russia who screamed so that no one could hush her. Her screams were extreme. No one heard such a scream as was screamed by that lady of Russia. So, that is all about limerick. As simple as that. Now, let's proceed to the last part of this discussion, which is the haiku. What do you think is the haiku all about? Haiku is a Japanese poem. Take note, haiku is a Japanese poem of 17 syllables in 3 lines of 5, 7, and 5, traditionally evolving images of the natural world. So haiku is again a very short, or shall we say, the shortest poem or poetry in the history, which is typically practiced or typically made by these Japanese people, because it originated in Japan. Now, haiku is traditionally a Japanese poem consisting of 3 short lines that do not rhyme. The origins of haiku poems can be traced back as far as 9th century. It exists from 9th century. Now, what are the examples of these? The examples of this haiku goes like this, are these. Number 1, an ocean voyage. As waves break over the bow, the sea welcomes me. So as simple as that, it is now the haiku. Now, since haiku consists only 17 syllables, 3 lines of every stanza, let us listen to these examples. Number 1, an ocean voyage. As waves break over the bow, the sea welcomes me. Number 2, love is like winter. From breaths thou cold hearts until one day the spring comes. Number 3, refreshing and cool. Love is sweet summer rain that washes the world. So, let's let's go back to this number 1. Let's count off. An ocean voyage, as waves break over the bow, the sea welcomes me. An ocean voyage. 5. As waves break over the bow, the sea welcomes me. Okay. Now, the 17 syllables there are arranged clearly and vividly. So that's how haiku is being made from Japan. It's a kind of unique poetry ever since. Okay, so those are all. I hope you grasped something from this simple report and topic. So, God bless, and keep moving, keep kicking.